Today we're gonna be reacting to his YouTube story part 3.
My 10-year-old daughter walked into the restaurant on Father's Day and bought us a meal she'd saved up for over 2 months. But when we sat down to eat outside, a teenage jerk walking by reached his hands into her fries and grabbed a handful of them before walking off.
He think he's cool, bro. He's not cool.
Daughter instantly started crying, and when I looked over, I saw the jerk walking away with his phone out, laughing and recording everything. I immediately stormed over to him and told him how disgusting what he just did was. He shoved his phone right in my face and started laughing. Oh my god, he's so mad. Clip this chat. I said this wasn't funny, but he just looked at his screen and interacted with the
Bro think he's cool just because of a chat, bro. You're not cool, bro.
chat. He turned to leave, but I reached my hand out and snatched the jerk's phone and put it in my pocket. He immediately said, "Give that back right now." But
Bro, stop saying that.
I crossed my arms and replied, "You're only getting it back after you apologize to my daughter and pay for a new meal for us." His face went red and he started getting aggressive, even pushing me hard enough to stumble. My daughter appeared and told
Bro, wait, look at this again.
daughter and pay for a new meal for us. His face went red and he started getting aggressive,
His mouth is not even open, and how is he screaming?
even pushing me hard enough to stumble. My daughter appeared and told him, "Don't hit my dad," but he yelled at her, "I'll do whatever I want," and pushed me again. I wanted
I'll do whatever I want.
to do something back, but I knew I couldn't hit a teenager. But suddenly a police officer walking by stopped and asked what's happening. The jerk immediately pointed his finger and said, "He stole my phone." The officer asked if that was true, and I said yes, then explained everything that happened. The officer looked at the jerk. "Did you steal their food and record it?" He shook his head and swore he didn't. But when the officer took the jerk's phone from my pocket, the footage on the live stream was right there, showing the kid taking my daughter's food and walking away laughing. The jerk went pale, and the officer immediately ordered him to go back and pay for a new meal for us right now. He walked to the counter, and when I looked over, the officer was holding the jerk's phone, live streaming him paying. After our food was ready, the officer slipped the phone into his pocket. I'm confiscating this as evidence. The jerk's face went red with anger, but he couldn't do a thing. And when he looked over, my daughter was at the exact same table, smirking right at him, while slowly eating the extra
She's laughing without her mouth moving. That's just crazy.
large portion of fries he'd just paid for. My 10-year-old, I congratulated my brother for scoring the game-winning touchdown, and he spit in my face. He and his teammates cracked up laughing as I wiped my eyes. "Why the hell did you do that?" "Just a reminder that you never forget who's better than you at everything. Now go get me a towel, Willie Waterboy." I walked over to the towel rack and shook my head, remembering how nice my big brother used to be before he became the starting running back, and everyone at school started treating him like a god. I handed him the towel, then he rolled it up and started whipping me. All I could do was cover up. "Stop, please." He gave me over 30 bleeding welts.
Whoa. No. You should go to prison for doing that.
Forcing me to go to the emergency room. A week later, after another game-winning touchdown, he cornered me in the showers, along
Wait, why are they chest naked? What?
with his two huge linebacker friends. "Please, leave me alone. You used to be so cool." That was before I realized what a little beach you are. He got a hold of the back of my underwear and wedgied me so hard I started bleeding. I'll spare you the details, but I ended up back in the hospital. I realized that I had to take action on my own if I was going to change anything. So I started training 5 days a week in jiu-jitsu. I got choked out and armbarred constantly at first and learned a lot. Nobody cared that
Hey, yo.
I was a nerdy water boy. I was just one of the guys. Over the next 2 years, while Austin was away at college, I trained 6 days a week, earned my brown belt, and kept it a secret. His 21st birthday party arrived, and his college football buddies were partying hard. He only invited me because he was planning to embarrass me. He didn't realize that I was about to get some serious payback. He got everyone's attention. "Who wants to see Willie the wanker down a beer upside down without his pants?" The crowd chanted, "Make the dweeb drink! Make the dweeb drink!" I pointed at my brother. "I'll bet you $1,000 that I can make you tap within 10 seconds. My brother smiled. "Make me tap? I'll take that bet." The football players made bets with each other, circled us, and started filming. Austin quickly grabbed my shirt, and I gripped onto his wrist, bent it backwards, spun him down to the ground, and got on top of him. "It's time for you to learn a little lesson in karma." I spun him over to his stomach, slapped on a chokehold, and put him to sleep in under 10 seconds. I held onto the choke, making sure his body fully released itself. It did. The shocked silence on every player's face as the yellow pool of liquid spread towards their feet said it all. A couple minutes later, I slapped him awake and held him face down in his own piss. He started crying. "What are you doing? Let me go. I'll let you up on one condition. Go and get me a beer, and then then sell me $1,000. You're about to become my personal water boy. I congratulate. My older sister returned from her dream college and said she's never going back there again. She'd stolen money from our parents to afford the tuition in Spain, and when they forgave her, she demanded they also buy her business class flights, or she wasn't going. They agreed because she always got everything she ever wanted. But then she came back midway through the semester and wouldn't speak to anyone. I found her on the kitchen floor sobbing into her hands. But when I asked her what happened, Mom pulled me aside and whispered, "My sister went through something traumatic and I shouldn't ask her about it." That night, my sister announced she wasn't going back to Spain. I'd given up the money I was going to use for my first car to help with her fees. But she was crying so hard, I understood. Every night, I heard her sobbing through the walls, and she walked around the house with sunken, depressed eyes. When Mom made her food, she couldn't even bring herself to eat it, and just stayed inside all day. One time, I suggested she could take online classes in the same college and still get her degree. But she looked at me with red eyes and said, "You have no idea what I went through. I can never even look at that place again." I backed up and told her I was sorry, and one day my parents asked me to loan them $2,000. They said my sister had found the strength to go back to college, but it had to be a different one. I told them I'd think about it, because I needed to know the reason she left before giving up the money. That night, I walked into her room and finally asked her what happened in Spain. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face and handed me her phone. I looked at the screen and saw something about a shop getting closed down, but had no idea what it meant. Then my sister looked me in the eyes and said, "My favorite churro spot near the college closed down. I can't go back there and walk past it knowing it's closed. It's too traumatizing." I looked at her crying and realized this entire meltdown was because one of the 50 dessert places in her area had closed down. My older sister returned from...
How does that make sense, bro? Like, how does that make sense?
My dad charged me $0.25 every time I cussed for 16 years, and I never figured out why until my wedding day. It started when I was 7. I yelled "fudge," dropping my cereal bowl, and Dad pointed at the beat-up peanut butter jar on the counter. "That's $0.25, kid. Drop it in. Fudge isn't a curse," I said. He kept his hand out until I paid. By 10, I was convinced I could outsmart him with workarounds. I tried beach at dinner, and Dad's hand came up. "Fakes count too, kid. You know the drill." I tried shoot, and that cost another $0.25. I went bigger with "this blows D," and another $0.25 hit the jar. He never even looked up from his plate. In high school, I changed strategies and figured if I went clean, Dad would finally crack and tell me what the money was for. 3 weeks of biting my tongue, and I sat down at dinner and asked him straight up. He just shrugged. "It's saved up safe somewhere. That's all you need to know." I stopped asking after that. The first real job I got paid 6 figures, so I walked in and told Dad his quarter system was beneath me now. Dropped a shoot on purpose right in front of him. He doubled the rate without missing a beat. "Welcome to inflation, son. Prices go up everywhere," was all he said. By our engagement dinner, I'd given up trying to beat him entirely. I raised a glass and toasted, "This beach is gonna suck my D if she ever leaves me." Dad's hand came up across the table. "That's $4 now. Inflation again. Pay up." My fiance's dad nearly choked on his wine. I moved out thinking I'd finally escaped, but the system followed me. Every cuss on the phone with Mom would trigger a Venmo from Dad for $1 within the hour. Wedding day. Dad walked into the suite carrying the same jar from the kitchen counter and pressed an envelope into my hand. Inside was a check for $60,000. Down payment on a house, kid. 16 years of you running your mouth paid for it. My legs gave out, and he waited until I could breathe again. Your grandfather did this exact same thing to me growing up. Kept every cent. Bought himself a boat with my money. I swore the day I had a son I wouldn't do that to him. The only word I could get out through the tears was fudge. His hand came up between us. "That's $4. My dad charged me $0.25. My mother walked into the kitchen holding a calendar with a date circled in red. "You have 1 month until you no longer exist." After she left my little brother, Theo looked at me and said, "What does that mean?" I choked on my own voice trying to explain.
Why does she have to be so mean to that to her own son?
Mom and Dad have this rule. Sometimes they pick someone in the family, and that person has to go away. They burn all your photos and throw out all your stuff, and nobody's allowed to say your name ever again. Theo's face crumpled. "Like Uncle Jack?" "Yeah, buddy, like Uncle Jack." My father started that night. He took a photo off the mantle of me and Theo at the beach, and burned it in the kitchen sink while Theo watched. Then he threw out a bag of my clothes, then my books, then my shoes. Theo started crying and ran to the closet. I followed him, and found him holding a photo of the 2 of us he'd stolen from from the burn pile. I don't want to forget you, he whispered. That's when I knew I needed to find a way to fight this for Theo's sake. While my parents were busy burning my schoolwork, I snuck into my father's office and started digging. I didn't know if I was going to find something, but in the back of a drawer, I found Uncle Jack's email and begged him to help me. Then I heard a noise behind me, and my mother appeared in the doorway. Rule breaker! Rule breaker! Dad stormed in and said, now your removal happens tonight. They dragged me toward the back door while I screamed and thrashed. But then suddenly we saw red and blue lights, and my parents looked afraid, so I knew they weren't the ones who called them. The front door suddenly opened, and Uncle Jack walked in. My mother screamed, you're not real anymore! Uncle Jack said, I'm real, but you're about to wish I wasn't. That's when the police walked in behind them. My father tried to run away, but an officer tackled him to the ground.
Oh, he's cooked.
And cuffed him. My mother was cuffed seconds later, still screaming that Jack didn't exist. I ran to Uncle Jack's side and hid behind him. How did you get here so quickly? I asked. I hid the email address in the drawer 6 years ago, on the night they erased me. I've been living in one town over ever since, checking that inbox every morning, waiting for one of you to find it. My mother walked into...
Okay, guys, that'll be it for today. And I have to go on the count of 2. I'll say peace. 3, 2, 1, peace.